Thank you, and hello everybody. It's wonderful to have you with us on the F Show. We have music, poetry, film, and influencers. I think you are all influencers generally, just in terms of all the work you have done for such a very long time. So I welcome you all to the F Show. And I'm really excited because some of you have been in the sector, as I said, for decades, and your work has been phenomenal. So I would like to start with you, Mzi, if you don't mind. You reached out to me on Twitter, which was great. And I was like, wow, this person who has all these many followers and continues to do amazing work. So it's wonderful to reconnect with you, Mzi. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you're doing. And then we'll hopefully listen to some of the music. Welcome.
Thanks very much for having me. My name is Mzilikazwa Africa. My stage name as a musician is Mzi, MZWE. I'm a musician, songwriter, producer, and a journalist, you know. So I just released a Pan-African album titled Rise with 25 songs, taking you across the African continent. That's what I do. My love for Africa, that's what shows on my Twitter every day, on my social media. My love for Africa and what I do musically or social media space. So I'm just a Pan-Africanist who really loves Africa, and then hoping that I share what I know about Africa with everyone else who's following.
And when you say that you share what you know about Africa, if you were to talk about a particular thing that is important to you, what would it be in terms of your Pan-African vision?
My thing is books, as you can see behind me, you know. People need to read, to understand, to learn, and be educated. I also share a lot of quotes every morning. First thing I do, I quote. I share about 5 quotes from different people who inspired me one way or the other. And then during the day, I post photos from different parts of Africa, from different tribes and different stages. So every time the themes are different. Like every day, I post different themes for different occasions, you know. I also post about books.
Can you share with us any of those inspirational quotes?
I would say like one African proverb. It says that the hunter in pursuit of elephants must not stop and throw stones at birds. It's one of the quotes that I love. And the other one is an African proverb says, if you think you're too small to make any difference, you've never spent a night with a mosquito, you know?
So, you wrote something about the snake very recently.
The snake.
The snake.
Yeah, basically I said you'll never know whether your friend is a snake or a snake is your friend until one of them bites.
Yes, I shared that with somebody and people got really quite excited, and I think really to think about what you're saying. Barbara, I see you getting quite interested in the book story. I wonder if you have something, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and Justine will be able to pull up those 2 images that you sent. And then if you would read something, I'd like you and Mzi to have more of a conversation around books though.
Sure. So thanks very much, Firdaus. I'm Barbara Schreiner, and I'm a writer. I've written poetry, prose, plays over the past many decades. At the moment, I'm working on a novel. So if you go to the second slide, that's a novel that I published in 2018. And the first slide is a different passion of mine, which is that I'm the kind of the convener of the editorial collective that works on Calabash, which is the literary journal of the National Writers Association of South Africa. It's an online magazine. and we've published two editions of it so far. And so that's kind of the one side of my creative work, is enabling creativity of other people and an outlet for other people, and particularly wanting to be able to, in that calabash, have the kind of literary giants of South Africa, whether it's Lesego or Wally Serote or whoever it is, but also have people who are relatively unknown starting out, and give them space to get their work out there and getting people to read it. So that's really fun. And we were talking a bit earlier, for those about what the impacts of the pandemic have been. And interestingly enough, Calabash, we managed to get out despite the pandemic, and we have a group of people that sit scattered around South Africa, and I'm sitting in Berlin at the moment. I'm based in Berlin, and so we've been working entirely virtually. And yeah, it's been amazing. We've actually managed to get stuff together. Yeah, and so I mean, the other thing, I'm working on a novel at the moment that I suppose is about, in many ways, it's about identity. I'm trying to explore the stories of my maternal side. You know, in families, the paternal side is very often the story that you know, and it's the surname that you carry. So I'm trying to look down the maternal historical line and see what comes out of that, and movement of people from Europe to South Africa, and at what stage, how do you become a South African in that process, and when. And then I've just come back from Dakar. I spent 4 days in Dakar. I went there for a conference, and then I had a couple of days to wander around, and I have to say that it was absolutely fantastic and exciting. There's a blog there about Dakar on my blog site, which I will read a little bit of. And one of the things that I really liked about Dakar was the art scene is amazingly exciting and vibrant. I saw artworks there that were really so stimulating and exciting and vibrant. It was really, really great. So I will read a little bit, and for those, you must stop me if I'm reading for too long. But this I'm going to read at least the beginning of the blog that I wrote about Dakar, called One Day in Dakar. Dakar sprawls untidy between sandy and broken pavements. A leaden Atlantic crashes onto black rocks that tumble along the shore. Yellow-billed kites play the role of seagulls and crows alike, scavenging city and shoreline trash. Long-legged cats stalk between women in colorful dresses selling peanuts, and tall men in pastel boo-boos and matching leather slippers. The sun bakes down, the heat soaked into earth and air, barely shifting as night falls. Only a breeze off the waves eases the oppression. The doorman of the Hotel Fleur de Lis, Point is important. There is another Fleur de Lis, better known, several kilometers away, as I discover when I arrive in Dakar, and my driver spends some time driving around in circles, unable to find the Hotel Fleur de Lis, Point. He hails me a battered black and yellow taxi. I have explained to him, the doorman that is, that I want to go to the Village of Arts, where the construction houses for the Stadium Leopold Senghor have been converted into studios, galleries, and artist residences. This, as I understand it, he has conveyed to the taxi driver. We putter off with a tink-tink of the engine that sounds remarkably like a Trabant. The journey is slow, dusty, windows open for air and COVID cleansing. I'm not convinced about the route we're taking, but I have the sense of direction of a river pebble, so I decide to trust the instructions of the doorman. And yet, somewhere between my Franglish and the utter lack of English of the taxi driver, my desires have got lost in translation, and I find myself at a conglomeration of informal shoplets hawking brightly colored handbags and hand-carved giraffes. In scattered morsels of French drawn from a course some years ago, I explain that this is the wrong place. He insists. I wanted a village artisanal, and this is a village artisanal. I show him on GPS where I want to go. He peers at the screen with one eye, holding the phone 3 inches from his face. Now I'm more worried about his ability to see enough to drive than where I'm going. The village desert is clearly not on his mental map of Dakar. I change tack. Ifan, I ask, Musée des Arts? He must know where that is. And I'll leave it at that point. And if anybody's interested, you can read the rest on the blog post.
Wow, that's wonderful. Mzi, you want to say something?
No, I'm saying that's wonderful. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to be in Dakar this weekend for a gig, but unfortunately, I can't go. I've got a Lobola negotiation for my cousin that I'm leading to Polokwane, so I chose to go to Lobola than to go to Dakar for a gig. So that's the unfortunate part. But I was supposed to be in Dakar this weekend as well.
I hope that the Lobola goes well and that there will be lots of celebrations. Maybe they'll take you to Dakar thereafter. Thank you so much, Barbara. That was beautiful, really insightful and really important. I would like to come now to Warwick. Can you share with us? I know you wanted me to actually start with Lesego. So if you prefer, we can ask Lesego to recite something wonderful. Lesego, can you hear me? You're on mute, so if you can unmute, perfect. Wonderful.
Okay. I've just unmuted myself. Am I coming through?
Yes.
Wow. I really don't understand. Oh, okay. You know, Warwick and I were actually tossing ideas around. Look at that. You know, my dreads also want to contribute something. But anyway, Warwick and I were discussing how to approach this, and we wanted to actually do music performance. He was going to play his stuff in Cape Town, and I do my stuff here. But we realized, I mean, look at this. There's such sabotage going down here. I think the forces of reaction are at work, so it wouldn't have worked, you know. So maybe I'll just read some lines from the album itself. Okay, Moff Dub. Serial, the Caesar way, crimson, no pirate in clover, under, around, over, make the crucial play. We bleed, the red fleet dread creed, plant the seed, they plunder the feed. Transformation station, come the coffers, short collars, consciousness to consumption, revolutionaries morph into klepto, megalo, maniacs, perverse chrysalis. Suffrage cannibalism, suffrage, suffrage, suffrage. What definition? What that settlements negotiation yielded defeats imagination. One election kicked us so hard in the mouth, we're still excreting our teeth, chanting one human, one vote. Dikeni said, the sky is beneath our feet, we walk on our heads, cause dick, ten clitoris and other way round is what arouses governance. Plus isms of ignorance, how the human juices sizzle in the sun, skating while golden showering, dying of manic, socio-psychopathic laughter, lolling, lying, swimming in a crimson pool. The Namib so knows slaughter, how Herero and Nama gushed out the blood hose, but it's on historical record. Not all pre-programmed mass killings weigh the same. Bring the death room scales. Melanin excess pushes the weight down. Count the cost. That was no Holocaust. In Sesotho, Nama means meat. Thus came the Aryan cannibals. Bavino Dab Manifesto. You see now, I don't even know if I'm coming through.
You came right through towards the end.
Oh, okay. So you missed all of what went before. That's sad.
It only froze when you were talking about
Anyway,
Nama, which in Sesotho. We got most of it.
Oh, okay, I'll start from there.
Yes.
Okay. Not all pre-programmed mass killings weigh the same. Bring the death room scales. Melanin excess pushes the weight down. Count the cost. That was no Holocaust. In Sesotho, Nama means meat. Thus came the Aryan cannibals. Bavino Dab Manifesto. Deep slavery's fantasies to blow. Horn dicks wrapped in nuclear waste glow. Footsteps throb on my brain. My brother's been through here. I recognize his blood stains. A Khositsile affair. Your best side and ancient monkeys but at birth, what's that say about the rest of you inching towards death? This the tabula rasa. Life is not sasa. Everything's to be worked for, to each their own goal. Ex-combatants, Pinocchio.
There we go. Back again.
I'll just continue. Ex-combatants, Pinocchio noses out their asses, could not cock Makarov. Boris Karloff, ugly face lies, what struggle credentials of the grandstands beneath which the truth bends. Cuckold and cuck-queen, my country and I have come to mean. Misogyny, death, next fiction, arachnophobic man and spider woman. Homogeneous what? We are not amorphous mass. Some like the smell of flowers, others where pit latrine stench overpowers. Sense of block sewer existence. The rest ambition is to live inside a nursery. Accept this life's compromise. No perjury. Your genius, my wet feces. And that's the rectum line. I should leave it there, I think.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, you know, except for technology is a beast, man. You know, for some reason, I mean, we're what that other fellow, the Nobel laureate, referred to as the third world, right? Just where you're flushing down the toilet. Maybe that is why I can't get through as I would have wished to.
But we are grateful
Hello?
for what we heard. We heard quite
Oh,
a
man.
bit. And so we are thankful, Lesego. Thank you. Warwick, can
Yeah.
you come in? I was just checking with you. Are we able to open that link? Is that okay for us to do so online?
Which one? There are two links. The one is the link. One. Sorry.
You sent us a link. You said is the album.
Yeah, the last one is the album Babylon Mission Report, where that poem that Lesego has just read.
Yes.
We corresponded through Zoom and through WhatsApp with his new poetry that he was writing, and I did music here in Cape Town, and he was in Sharpeville. And I think I said, you know, with recording, if you get very close and you get a good mic, even a relatively okay mic, and if you record in a motor car or something like that, you can get a pretty good dead sound. So he was doing that, recording. I think Lesego, you're recording onto your phone, hey? I think he was recording onto his phone, and then he'd mail me the
I
poem.
was using any and everything I could, man.
Yeah, and I'm very good at sound. I study sound. I'm doing a PhD at the moment in sound studies and social history and stuff. And so I cleaned up his sound and fitted it into a groove bass. You know, we came out electronic music in the 80s with Shifty Records. So I'm quite good working by myself with electronics. And so I sat and did the music. Lesego, we'd go over the poems, and we cobbled together an album that came out actually during the unrest that happened a few months ago, which was quite coincidental, given that a lot of Lesego's poems are sort of futuristically, yeah, there it is, futuristically prescient. So yeah, so we put together that poem is just read as the second track, Suffrage Cannibalism, and that's the Bandcamp site where one can either listen to them. I think this is still a free download. We worked out, my son worked out that you get donations on this site, and it's actually make more money than if you put a price on. People actually give you donations, and it's a better transaction. So this album was done like this, and then after that I released the dub album of that version, which are the kind of instrumentals with Lesego's voice fading in and out. The classic dub structure, in the 70s, Jamaican studios had a recording studio setup like I've got behind me here. And then the great geniusness of it and why it, and you know, it's long before digital and everything. So they'd be like Lee Perry and these guys would record a song, and then they'd produce a what they called a dub. They had vinyl pressing plant in their studio, which is really cool. So they'd do a test pressing, a dub plate, and the recording studio, the record company, the dub plates, and they'd also own a sound system, so like a nightclub. Perfect setup. So you'd have this thing whereby you'd recorded the music that night. The DJ would try it out on the audience, and if it was good, you'd press the records. If it wasn't, you know, you try again. And I think it was King Tubby who accidentally, I think Scientist was working with him then, and they accidentally made a dub plate and the guy had muted the vocals. And the junior engineer said to Tubby, I've made a mistake. And he said, no, it's cool, let's just leave it. And say they let the vocal out and put it back in and let it out by accident. And that was hugely popular in the club. So that was what dub versions were. So you made a song, a 7-single, and on the B side would be the instrumental, so the DJs could toast over and read their, or just improvise ideas, word performance stuff. So that's always been, I think for both Lesego now, we've had this common thread all the way through since the mid-80s when we first met. And we just picked up the threads, recently with this album. So we haven't done anything for a long time. We did one album in 1992, 91. In fact, based on these books here, I bet you Lesego doesn't even have them. That's the first one, Horns for Hondo. And then that's the second one that I worked with. Let me try and get that. There we go. It's like working in a mirror. And yeah, so that's basically our history. And then one of the, we used to do concerts together. We played a number of, we got invited to Brazil, the Poetry, Belo Horizonte Poetry Festival in, what is it, 1995, Lesego, somewhere around there. And a few things like that we've played. But it's it's kind of rarefied stuff. Not everyone's cup of tea, as always. And now so that album was done, and we're now picking up the pieces here, trying to figure out how to get this live performances. And that's that.
So Warwick, are you able to tell us, is there anything that you could play for us? Is there any of the
if you play
audio that we could hear?
Quite difficult sound-wise because I don't think the sound would come through on Zoom. It's got various limiters and filters. It's very, very difficult to play unless you guys, the host, play it through your system. I think would probably be the best. So this is an old one.
Let's see if Justin goes back to that link.
So this is with Liam Schlanger and Musica Africa, Jimmy Indie. We did this was a series of concerts that with Vusi Mkhlisela, and I think Lloyd Ross recorded this this video. So this was mid-90s, I think. There you go.
Okay.
That's Liam Schlanger. And yours truly.
They came in the heat of rum to freeze the beat of my drum. Oh, people, take a note. I wasn't allowed to vote. They sang a song sharp as the devil's wrong. They spoke in the gun and rifle tone, and I answered in the language of stone. But I'm not David. My hand is not a table charge. Thus my blood danced in the sand, and fire engulfed the rain. But I became a heavyweight, and in kind started to communicate. For I switched onto the bush channel, they ran like rats in a tunnel. In their ears my words rang loud, as beat of the beat they continue to pound. Now they sing from deep in their lungs, while with history's blood they polish their fangs, singing a venomous tune, but to that brand of poison I'm immune. No one can negotiate.
There we go.
Yay, that was wonderful. Z, I think you are sending me some wonderful pics, but can you copy it to Justine? Because I'm not able to open it here. I would like us to be able to show more of what you're sharing. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to go to the poet. Yes.
Can you send me Justine's email on, inbox me Justine's email, so I'll send them direct to him. Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And now we hope to have some poetry. Welcome, Letukules. Thank you so much. Wonderful to have you with us.
Hi, I'm so honored to be here. Also, just listening to Lesotho read just reminded me of why I fell in love with poetry in the first place. And I just think the current climate that we're in, the kind of voice that really needs to be preserved. I feel like the way that the things that we celebrate these days, I think, threaten to suppress that kind of talent. And it's just so privileged to be in a space that's preserving that kind of poetry. I'm a writer and a poet as well. Actually, I met Lesotho when I was doing my MA at Peru. And I think, I remember us having very insightful conversations, and I'm feeling very inspired by those as well. So, can you hear me, by the way? Okay.
Yes,
So,
yes, we can.
I just recently finished my first book, but it's only going to be released in January. And I've only written one book, although I feel like I've been writing my whole life. And I would love to maybe share an extract from a chapter called My Father. My father. Last night, I met with my father, and he asked if I would marry one day. It is unlikely, I wanted to say, because I trust my recent history. He says he wants to buy a home in KwaZulu-Natal, to leave something for my brother and I. He asks that my brother consider the use of his last name, lest his children have no sense of where they're from. And I feel for a time that I am sown. I have a father, and I am a part of his will. He remarks that I should not have cut my hair again. Reminds me of how long it once was, how beautiful. And I want to tell him that I know I'm not desirable, but I once was, and I will be again. I wear makeup on the day I meet my father. I curse myself when I forget to spray perfume. I pray brevity will hide my scent as I hug my father. I hope he doesn't notice how marked I've become. My father is eager to please us. He's made dinner reservations. He's ordered a bottle of red wine. He lowers his eyes as a contortionist folds herself between her legs, and I am taken by this gesture. I feel a scalpel blade uproot a rusted bullet lodged in my head. I feel it make waste of sore memories and revert shattered glass into sand. My father asks the waiter to photograph him seated with his children. He asks again when I appear dark or solemn in each shot. The waiter activates the flash so as to discern my form from its shadow, but I fear each time I smile, a sudden weight gathers under my eyes. When it's time to leave, my father asks that we stay a while longer. My brother is pleased, and I'm quietly relieved to be wanted. I think This is as near as I'll come to being as I was, to being warmed, to being welcomed, to being seen as something feared to be lost. My father wants to know that we've arrived home safely. My mother wants to know what it was like to see our father. My brother falls asleep on the floor of his room, and I feel a sheet of steel wrap itself over my wounds. Thank you.
Wow.
Beautiful.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell us a bit more of the work that you do and what you hope. We say that the pandemic, I like to hear that Warwick and Lesego have managed to actually work across, given the pandemic. You've used so many different technologies. What about your case? How has the pandemic affected you?
I think the pandemic has affected me insofar as it kind of made me feel a little less behind with the world. It kind of it put everyone behind, and it just gave me time to catch up with the world, which I felt like I was just behind in a sense. And I think I always feel very behind with things because the nature of what we do is very reflective. And so we spend a lot of our time reflecting on things, and then when we're suddenly in the present, we feel so behind. And I feel that the pandemic made everybody sit still for a second and gave me time to catch up with the world. That's kind of how I perceived it. Yeah. Should I say something more?
Sure, you would like to?
No, it's quite silent.
No, I think you're making us reflective. I think what you say is really powerful. Barbara, what would you say? What has the pandemic done for you? I like that you traveled. I like that you got, to go to Dakar. I feel so excited about that. But what has it been for you? I think you might be on mute.
No, can you hear me? I'm not on. So, I mean, I was back in South Africa recently and about a month ago, and then I went to Dakar. So I've been traveling like more than I have for the past 18 months. I arrived in Berlin 3 years ago to take up a job here. Was here for a year, and then everything went pear-shaped. And so fortunately, I mean, really, it's just incredibly fortunate that we live in a digital age that is so well connected, and that one can do a whole lot of stuff and remain connected. But in terms of my own writing, I have a day job, so I'm actually here to run an NGO called the Water Integrity Network. So I do my writing and things like that after hours. But I took leave. We had a long lockdown here, and I took leave in the middle of winter. I took a month, and with the lockdown, I mean, Berlin is not a city that you come to for the weather. It's a city you come to because it's culturally so incredible and exciting and whatever. But when everything is shut, it's just a slab of concrete. So I just holed up in my flat, and it was dark and cold outside, and nowhere to go and nothing to do. So I just wrote for a month. So in fact, it was an incredibly creative period for me in that regard. Really able to just focus and get on with it. But I'm very privileged in the sense that I have a job. So I haven't faced what so many of my friends and colleagues in South Africa have faced as artists, which is real poverty and real financial setbacks and desperation in terms of lack of income because of the pandemic.
Yeah. That has been the general narrative in South Africa, which has been extremely sad. Mzi, how has it been for you? I mean, I think you're quite prolific, and it's wonderful that you've managed in your studio to get artists together. And if Justine's able to pull up any of those pics, we'll have a look at them, or we'll go to your Twitter account. But just tell us how you managed, and as you did this wonderful album as well.
So for me, I think the pandemic was a sort of a blessing in disguise, because more especially when we're in level 5, I woke up, just go to the gym, which is in my house, and I sit and do nothing. So I decided, like, let me spend more time in the studio, which is also in my house. So that's when I started putting together all the pieces of my album, stuff that I have recorded over the years that has been sitting in the studio. So I started reworking, polishing up some of the stuff. And so by the time when we moved to level 3, I will then bring musicians to the studio to come and because I can't sing, I can just write songs. So that's when I brought some musicians to the house. Then we start recording and start working on the stuff. But yes, in terms of performing now, this album is done. You know, performing is like most clubs have closed down because of pandemic, and most stuff is. So we only rely on your digital platforms where you can sell and try and push your material. Which is good for now, because I receive very amazing stuff from people. You know, the album, like in 2 months, you know, it's already over 500,000 streaming. You know, which is good for me. You know, we're sitting at home and people will probably want to listen to music, so that's why the streaming is going up so like crazy. And I mean, we really want the clubs to be open so we can go out there and have fun, give people our news material. But yeah, we can't risk that, because also people have to be cautious, have to be careful, and there are rules and regulations and all sort of things. So that makes us not to do that, which we have to adhere to and respect. But I mean, it cost us a lot of things. A lot of clubs have closed down. A lot of favorite hang-out restaurants have closed down. A lot of people are starving, you know, and that's the saddest part of this thing. And we cannot, I don't think we'll recover very soon, even if they open up the platforms. I don't think we'll recover very soon, because it really went deep. And then for us to go deep and clean up and move up to the top, it's gonna take years.
Can you explain to us, in terms of the streaming, how is it possible to earn money? Is it through the promos that you're getting funding, or how exactly is it working for you?
So you see, digital platforms they pay you per your streaming in their in their engines, you know. So the more streaming you get, is the more money you'll make out of them. So it's wise that you get your material in different platforms, you know, because not everyone can access. Some people can access YouTube, some can access Spotify, some can access iTunes, some can. So you need to send your stuff to all those platforms to make sure that anyone, whether they're using Android phone or they're using Apple phone, they can access your stuff. And you start marketing it on social media to make sure that it gets the streaming. So the more numbers you push, the more income you'll make out of that.
Thank you. So Warwick, I was just listening to you explaining to us in your case that your son has helped you to look at, rather than putting a purchase price, putting it out there so people would donate, they give you just whatever they think. How has that worked?
That platform that our album is on, Bandcamp, sells more albums than any other site. In other words, complete albums. You can formulate an album with photographs and lyrics, and you can do a concept. And unfortunately, actually, there's a very good article that I think it's in the Maverick right now. Jay Savage wrote about streaming, and it's impossible to make money from Spotify, for instance. The question was, in fact, Trevor Noah, in that article, there's a little ad for one of Trevor Noah's pieces on streaming and trying to make money. And the way Spotify works is that they take all the money everything that's generated from the plays, and they put it into a pot. And the person who gets the most plays gets the most money. So the Drake is the guy who makes the most money. So all us little guys are generating money, and we get nothing. We get 0.0001 of a cent for each play. So it's a big controversial thing now, and there's a lot of discussion on how to make it more fair for the musicians. But the only platform is Bandcamp, the one we're using, where they just take a 15% cut, and you get everything else pretty much straight away into a PayPal account. So that's worked for immediate, help, for Lesego and I. In other words, you can make an album, and if you can, the difficulty is promoting these things, and without live concerts, or if you're not really good at, and we're a little bit old school, and you've got Facebook and all that is quite a mission to get on top of. So if you're really good at that, all the social media things, you can generate sales. And I don't know, it's music for composers and producers of music. It's a very tough time right now. You can reach a lot of people and get millions of followers, but to actually make the sort of money you used to make, like in the 80s with a vinyl record, or that sort of thing, it's very hard. Or with CDs, even as soon as the MP3s happened. In fact, when CDs happened, it was the first time, and I remember it very well because we were working, with tape, and we were using records and cassettes. And when the first CD came out, it was the first time that you actually handed over your master tapes to everyone, because the CD was the master. There's no difference between the quality of one CD and another, and your master. So that was the digitization. The digital has changed everything. So it's also something that, academically and everything has been quite, it's been looked at. I've been writing about it recently too, but we should just go back to records and cassettes.
Firdaus, can I ask Warwick something? Because it's hell of interesting hearing you talk about it, and going back to there's a niche market going back to vinyl, but I don't see it coming back in a major way. Do you think there is a real possibility of turning around this incredibly unfair streaming thing that makes it so difficult for smaller people?
Yeah, a lot of young bands are actually not digitizing their music at all. They're recording on tape. They're buying bizarre, I've actually sold all my 1/4-inch machines and things to young people who are interested. For instance, that group Iron and Wine, I don't think they've ever made a CD. They've never digitized their music, and they sell vinyl records because they know that is a product, an artwork. It's like selling a painting. So there's a shift to that. In Canada, they sell cassettes, which is even more bizarre. I mean, I'd rather have a record than a.
Do they still stream?
So there are these things happening, as an alternative. So, and if you press up, and I've been wanting to, there's been a French guy and an English guy been wanting to maybe make a vinyl of this record. You can press up, 500 copies, and if you sell them for $300-400 each, you can actually cover your costs and make a profit within a period of a few months. So that economy is coming back in quite a big way. The vinyl records are outselling CDs, for instance.
That's hell of interesting.
Yeah, and it's an art piece, Sorry, Mzi.
I was thinking that the market for CDs in South Africa is dying because, as we all know, shops like Musica, Dakota have closed down. So there's no where you can sell your CDs. So people then now they have to go to your digital music shop, because if you print CDs, you have to sell them at a gig. But now there are no gigs because clubs have closed down. So that's what is contributing to the death of CDs and CD sales in South Africa right now.
And poetry-wise, is there a market for making money out of poetry online? Letta Guhle, are you like in that field of putting stuff online, putting stuff out digitally and making money from it, or not? Oh, it is.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that these days poetry as a form has never really been a very lucrative business, and I think that a lot of the time people, like he was mentioning before, vinyl seems to be doing better than CDs, and I think it's because people who buy vinyls love music, really love music, and I think with poetry might have the same approach. But these days as well, I think social media plays a really huge influence, and just visibility plays a huge influence in your sales. And I think maybe the nature of a lot of poets, especially ones who do poetry like this, tend to not really be attracted to those platforms, but those seem to be the ones that draw in the biggest audience. In fact, they draw in such a huge audience that very mediocre poets are getting very recognized and appreciated simply because they have more visibility.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is true, that there are, as you say, some very mediocre poets that seem to be getting a lot of recognition. Yeah.
So would it be mainly that you do live events? Would that be where you would find your niche, your space?
I would say live events, sure. And if you do live events, you will also find yourself with those mediocre poets. I think slam is really finding its way to the surface. And I think there's a lot to be said about good slam, but it's also very difficult to discern in all that, noise. But also I think the best place for a poet to go and is in academia. I think that's where you really find your people. And that's in terms of poetry. I'm not sure about music. I think music is a whole different ball game altogether.
The academics paying though, if you say that's the best place to go, would you be paid? I suppose part of the conversation is really where's the money, right? How do you make money out of it?
I actually don't know. I actually think the reason why I said academia was because I feel like if you find work or a space in academia, you can have a way to, maintain a lifestyle without actually your work or your poetry making any money for you. So, but actually speaking of music, it might be useful to, in fact, what you've done with this album is really important, because mixing the mediums automatically makes the work more accessible. And it sort of speaks to the origins of poetry, which was like being a bard essentially. And I feel like the moment you mix it with music, it feels very true to form.
Have you ever put your poetry with music?
I've tried, but I actually sing. So I think eventually the reason why I ended up writing poetry is because I'm so shy. So I would like when, it affects your voice when you're nervous. So I ended up just writing songs and not singing them. And that made me go into the direction of poetry. So every time music comes on, I just suddenly want to sing. I don't necessarily want to recite poetry anymore.
Thanks. I'm just checking with Justine if she could bring up the Rise album, and maybe Mzi would get some of the songs, because I think if we click on it, we should be able to listen. You said you own the rights, so it should be okay.
Yes, yeah, I own the rights to the album. Yeah.
Let's try to get that up. We've been trying for a while between Justine and I. And I see we've lost Lesego. I hope that he's going to be able to share something else with us again, Warwick.
Yeah, I hope so too. I know he's in Shoshanguve somewhere, so obviously his link is tenuous.
As you said, it's also a data thing, so I'm sorry about that. So let's see if Justine is able to get there we go. If we clicked on any of it, Justine, let's see if we can listen.
Matalite
Thank you, Justine. We also have some slides that hopefully Justin will be able to bring up. Mzi, then you can talk to us about that. That's beautiful. Share with us. There we go. We have some slides.
So for me, it's like, I think because of what is happening now, we don't have club scenes and all of that. So what I've done with my album is to shop around in Hollywood for people who are making movies, you know, to get some of my songs into be soundtracks, which I've succeeded to a certain extent. Like now I've got 3 songs and that have been chosen to be in a Hollywood movies, and I've got paid for that, which is good, you know, it's good money, you know, getting your songs and into Hollywood movie and getting paid for that. It's so for me, that's why as much as we can, we have to find ways to survive. So for me, I try to, which is something I've been trying to do for many years, just to make music that will appeal to movies, you know. So I think I try to capture that moment in this album. That's why it was easy for me whenever I sell this album to people who are making movies. They say, "Oh, we like this song, we like that song, we like that song." So I think for me, I think that's what is good about it. You know, it is, again, it's difficult to penetrate in that market because we go into the market where people, they know they've got their favorite, they know if ever they're making a move, they know they need to go to A, B, C, D, you know, to do their soundtracks and all of that. So you coming there new, first of all, you'll be shortchanged because you don't have a big name yet, but you still make money out of it. So it's not like you won't be getting getting paid and all of that. So I think for me, that's what I've learned in this difficult time, you know, that we have to find ways to survive, and also opening up this market in Hollywood, which is gonna grow, because whatever we're doing now in Hollywood is gonna grow into something bigger to what we have right now, because of the connections we've made, the friends we've made, and also us working with all the Hollywood producers. You know, we managed to crack that kind of a network connection with them. So we exchange files, we exchange songs, we start working together for different themes, different movies, and all of that.
Thank you so much. So I was wondering whether you reached out to any of the people from Nollywood, because you're talking about Hollywood, but you did tell me you're Pan-African. So I'm wondering whether you've reached out to Nollywood.
Not exactly. What we did was I reached out to people who are doing the Fela Kuti celebration, what is called a celebration. So last week, which was Fela's birthday on the 15th, there's a compilation that was released as a tribute to Fela Kuti. One of my song actually is the opening of that album, you know, which is going out all over the world. It's also it's available. It came out on the 15th as Fela's birthday. So hopefully someone in Nigeria will also pick it up and pick up the same song that is used on the album and come to me and say, okay, let's talk. We'd like to use this song on some of our Nollywood movies. So I'm open and to that. It's just like I don't know much of the guys doing the Nollywood movies. I managed to know more people who are doing the Hollywood movies.
Okay, so we're going to connect you with the African filmmakers and the African film producers, because there's quite a large number of us who work together, and I would love them to know about your work as well. Thank you so much. I've just asked Justine if we can open your website as you're talking about your poetry, and Warwick, you've also requested to know a little bit more. So let's see if we can open that website. Justine, please. I think it's important for us to use the opportunity also around networking. So if we know how we can support each other, but also I love the fact that the disciplines are interrelated. Oh, this is lovely. Latukushla, would you like to talk about your work? I think you're on mute, my dear.
Yes, yeah, I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself because I'm used to doing it from my face. So this is the work I've done over the years, and the artwork you're seeing here is my brother's. But I've met a lot of artists along the way, and I love the idea of pairing just visuals and writing, because I always felt whenever I went to writers' websites that I would be overwhelmed with all the words, and I would just feel just lazy to engage. And so I just wanted to make it easier for people to access the work by having something beautiful to look at, and also just, you know, giving the artist some visibility as well. So I just put down all my work that I'd been writing on the side, and I also just found that I wanted my work to be seen whether or not someone wanted to publish me. So I think that was the main objective when I started a website, just a deep fear of not being heard. And it's probably the thing that caused me to write in the first place. But as the years have grown, I've tried to just explore different forms like prose, and I've started writing reviews. I want to start a podcast. So I'm really just learning. I just wanted to create a platform for me to be free to put out whatever I want without worrying about who feels what about it. So that was pretty much the incentive behind the work.
Thank you. That's just absolutely beautiful. So usually in closing, we ask people to consider, because this is the F show, and the F show is really my name, Firdaus, but we also would like you to tell us what F stands for. So as your closing remarks, as whatever you wish to share with us, please tell us what F stands for. To me, F is for freedom. It might be friendship. It might be several other things. So I'm going to go to Lesego, if he will be able to unmute himself and give us his closing thoughts, and maybe share some poetry or song or anything that he would like to. Lesego, are you there?
I'm here. God, I have to run through this very quickly. This is family time. I've known Barbara for 30 years or so, Warwick for 32 or whatever. But
Have we lost his sound, audio?
Yeah, maybe he'll come back though.
Yeah. Lesego, we lost you for a second. It's those 15 seconds he talks about.
Okay.
Sure. You are back.
Am I coming through now?
You're back.
Okay. Obscene instance. Hebe latalata tsiki mamela. Obscene instance. Ditsi minds ravage ratia land this month's sapelo moment. For PM Mulele, they tied his spine to a craft to steer across the Congo River. Genocide, murderous ride, cancerous pride, tribalistic ones, putrefied carcasses enough to bring a caress to a racist conscience, colorblind hierarchies, intestines for whips, these bleeding lips, what vengeance, hatred, retribution meant, a viscera excreta relation so forlorn holds a worm in admiration. Legs in amputation, drumsticks. Give the drummer his character with a clenched fist. Like soldiers for peace, Red Muntea's fat of gore to prepare for war. Venom spill, poison filled syringe. Dread chalice, severed head.
Lesego, we just lost the last part.
Thing. Am I back?
You are back, yes.
Oh God, okay. No, that's fine. Okay, venom spill, poison filled syringe, dread chalice, severed head on a string. From going to rigor mortis to how text is not words. Tears parade, fat as maggots in cadavers. Mourners for pay scream, shrill enough to cut bread, but can't drill into heads. Corrupt tentacles, head tendrils up Sin Mountain, down Hades hole. Manhood bragging rights, mutilated babies' body parts. I wish I could have said something, contributed rather, positively to this, but anyway, that's how it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What does F stand for?
Free stuff. Everyone wants free stuff. I mean, if you do a record, people want it free. They want it free, No one actually wants to pay for anything, really. It'd actually be great if we just had a world where everything was free anyway. So I think that's my F.
Barbara?
Yeah, well, I can't decide on one F, so I came up with, for me, there are three Fs: female, fertile, and the future.
Thank you. Did you want to have any closing remarks?
Female, fertile, future, beautiful.
No, it's really unfortunate the technology has not been kind. It seems to have been a day of not kind technology in my world today, and I'm sorry that Lesego's poetry has been interrupted so brutally by the technology. But it's been really great just to connect with people that I've known for many years, but also just to connect with new people and to hear what people are doing, and some really beautiful stuff. So just thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah, thanks.
I also got three Fs, friendship, festival, and freedom.
And I think what you have done for us, though, is also fascinating, because you've really inspired us to think about other ways of coming together and sharing our art. And I do wish you lots of luck with what you are doing. And thank you so much for reaching out when you did. Warwick,
okay.
Do you want to say anything else, Warwick, besides freebies?
No, well, I like Lesego's family. You didn't get to finish it, that we are all connected some way or another. I like that. Family and friends. It's good.
Letogosle, would you like to, do you want to recite a poem? Would you like to share something else? I think we really, really do appreciate your work, and the blog page was fantastic. Thank you so much. And I think the collaboration with your brother is really inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, I don't want to overwhelm you with too much poetry, but I'm so honored to be here. And I haven't felt felt that feeling of a writing family like I did today. So I really appreciate you providing this platform for me.
I think Lesego was asking if he could chip in, and of course you can chip in, Lesego. Please do. That's not an old message, I hope, that I've just read.
It is a bit old.
Oh, is it old?
He wrote it before he spoke last.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for keeping me then on top of it all. So I would like to thank you all for joining us, and I hope that we'll have more opportunities. Really, the networking is important. And as you said, family, all of us coming back together. Warwick, you and Lisejo, I think I remember from the old days in the 80s. And Barbara, thank you so much for sharing. We probably met along the way too. And I love the new kid on the block. So thank you for being with us and sharing your wonderful work. Good night, everybody.
Yes, bye.
Bye.
Bye.